known or popular. Did someone say the Foundation was formed in the 1960s? But you need the Foundation to exist in World War II? The Foundation is now from the 19th century. Sure. You want a Foundation that has more resources than the eye can see? Go wild. You want a Foundation that's penniless? Why not? As long as the story is interesting, your freedom is basically unlimited. While this is often phrased as there is no canon, this doesn't mean that nothing on the site can coexist. Many articles can share the same universe, and some explicitly reference each other. It just means that you don't have to try and fit everything into a single version of the Foundation. This carries over to the many different stories, games, and short films of SCP, with the Foundation itself having drastically different technological capabilities between stories. In some stories, the Foundation has technology capable of creating an infinite number of timelines and universes, while in other stories, they fail to contain beings that aren't much stronger than a normal human. So this video, in and of itself, will be its own canon of the SCP universe, doing my best to take into account the SCPs that I'm the most familiar with, and the medium level of capability that the Foundation seems capable of wielding within the explicit SCP entries. I don't have every SCP memorized, and there might be an entry for something identical to Goku that is easily contained, but I don't know about it. In fact, I'd love to hear your own ideas and theories about how the SCP Foundation could potentially contain the characters from Dragon Ball Z. For this scenario, we are functioning under the notion that the Z Fighters and the SCP Foundation coexist within the same universe. The SCP Foundation perhaps replacing the Red Ribbon Army and knowing of Goku's and Vegeta's exploits, wanting to contain the two of them. While being individually some of the most powerful, they also have unique techniques that make them particularly difficult for the Foundation to handle. It's important to note the goal of the Foundation here is to contain the Saiyans and not neutralize them. Saying something like giving Goku the clockwork virus to kill him kind of goes against the entire system and morality of the Foundation of containing things. Within the Foundation, there are several major classifications of objects: Safe, Euclid, Keter, Apollyon, and Thaumiel. The first four are ranked by how difficult something is to contain, ranging from safe, which are things that are easily contained without any difficulty, to Apollyon, which cannot be contained at all. Thaumiel objects are ones that actually help or completely contain another SCP. The first question to answer is if the organization would want to contain Goku and the others at all. And the answer is yes. It's important to note that the SCP Foundation wants to contain things regardless of if they are good-willed or not. Take, for example, SCP-4051, who by all means is a good guy with superpowers, but they are still considered Keter and are contained by the organization. So even hearing rumors about what Goku or other people did during any of the Budokai Tenkaichis or against any of Earth's several invasions would prompt them to go for containment. The next question to ask is how they go about it. And I think there's an incredibly important step to how easily the next few steps to containment are. If they attempt to contain them through force or aggression, trying to kidnap Goku and Vegeta using one of the SCP's many strike teams, obviously things would go insanely poorly for the Foundation. While they do have some powerful military technology, we've seen in the past that any force suitably physically powerful enough can easily destroy their forces and technology, like the Shy Guy completely tearing apart their vehicles without much difficulty. Once the organization shows any kind of aggression through direct confrontation, I think containment of Goku and Vegeta becomes nearly impossible. Once put on alert that some sort of human force is going after them, the Foundation's surprise factor goes out the window. Especially if Goku decides to use his mind reading technique and glean some understanding of their goals, there's a chance that the Z Fighters treat the Foundation facilities just like Dr. Jiro's lab. That being said, outright destroying the facilities would actually be immensely difficult for them due to their secluded nature. Besides really plugging the controller into the Foundation's ass and having them ask SCP-239, who's a girl who can make her wishes into reality based on her own perception, to contain them, they are probably screwed in this scenario and will have to put up with letting them remain uncontained Apollyon-class SCPs. However, if the SCP Foundation is a bit more cautious in its approach, perhaps even risky, they might be able to pull something off. Assuming they know more things about the actual character traits and personalities of Goku and Vegeta, they might be able to get some serious advantages here. The Saiyans can pretty easily be convinced to follow people they just met under the promise of something they want or would be entertained by. Just look at how the Heaters during the Granola Arc managed to convince Goku and Vegeta to spend 18 days on a spaceship just to fight someone who is actively trying to assassinate them. In other words, if the Foundation manages to approach the Saiyans with the outward appearance of not being a threat or an enemy, perhaps even being helpful to them, they might just have a chance. But what could they actually do with that chance? To a degree, they need a strong, almost one-shot option that can instantly contain the Saiyans for the reasonable future. There are numerous challenges they would need to overcome to make that possible. Number one, most obviously is power. If the Saiyans in any form are allowed to keep their abilities at all, they would probably just break out of any cell. And two, teleportation. Even ignoring their strength, if for whatever reason Goku and Vegeta can't break out of the cell, they could probably just use instant transmission to teleport out. If somehow they got contained by being placed into an alternate dimension like SCP-106, they might just be able to scream or shatter their way back out like Gotenks or Broly did. So what can the organization do to capture beings who in most ways cannot be forcefully contained, harmed, or restrained in any meaningfully physical way? Cognito hazards and amnestics. Here's how I think the SCP Foundation could pull it off. First, the SCP send operatives posing as a friendly new organization who may even be transparent about their aims to keep Earth safe through managing powerful and dangerous beings. They may play it up for the Saiyans and essentially bring them along under the guise that there are strong beings from the fight and that they're doing this for the sake of research or just testing out everyone's power involved. The Saiyans would then be brought to numerous facilities, potentially fighting against many different of the more powerful Keter-class SCPs in containment, like the lesser form of SCP-682. Again, in this scenario, we are functioning under the assumption that the organization knows essentially most of the details about the Saiyans and what they're like, and any weaknesses that can take advantage of. And I think the one weakness that they can substantially take advantage of is food. Saiyans eat a lot and don't even seem skeptical of the food they've ever been given, even by complete strangers. It is here where the Foundation might just be able to dose the Saiyans with powerful amnestics. Amnestics in the SCP universe are powerful and sometimes anomalous drugs that use nanoparticles in the brain to erase, change, or alter memories on the physical level, kind of like the equivalent of the Men in Black glasses and light combo. If they can stall the Saiyans long enough through different fights against SCPs and by bringing them to many of their locations across the world, they might be able to repeatedly dose the Saiyans with amnestics over the course of several days through food. They would likely be given Class F, Class B, or Class D amnestics, though it would likely only be one at a time as mixing them is not recommended. Class F is the most potent, which can cause someone to forget everything and gain a whole new personality with new memories entirely. If the SCP Foundation can successfully dose the Saiyans enough to do this, they might be able to convince them to be complacent and forget the fact that they are Saiyan warriors with ki techniques. While Goku and Vegeta are really strong naturally, deleting their memories of how to use ki, or even the knowledge of ki in general, may put them in a very similar situation to Captain Ginyu, no longer being able to access their body's abilities anymore to a significant degree. If they're really desperate, they could use something like SCP-2140, which is an image that when witnessed makes someone become a member of the SCP Foundation itself. Though it would be powerful enough to alter the memories of everyone in Goku and Vegeta's lives, especially when they aren't human and would have to change their whole backstories, is admittedly questionable. Could the SCP Foundation contain the Saiyans? It's questionable. If everything goes perfectly, their knowledge is nearly absolute, and everything works as intended, they have a chance of actually being able to potentially contain them. But what do you think? Did I miss something crazy from the main SCP lore? Perhaps you have another idea of how they could pull it off. Let me know your ideas or how I'm wrong in the comments down below. See ya! Happy Halloween, everyone. With this month being all about horror, I thought I'd finally do a video I've been meaning to actually talk about for a very long time, as people really enjoyed my Goku vs. SCP Foundation video. Today, we're going to be covering if Goku would be able to escape the backrooms, and generally how well he'd do if one day he suddenly fell between the cracks of reality and ended up in the space between dimensions. Now, the main problem with the backrooms is that there is not one original creator, nor is there an official canon. Pretty much anything goes when it comes to the backrooms. There is obviously the insanely popular series by King Pixels, but there are also, at this point, dozens of games, even more individual YouTube series that all have different interpretations of the backrooms, that all have pretty different or sometimes overlapping lore. For this video, we'll be looking at some of the more expansive sources so we can get the most detailed information as we can about the nature of the backrooms, how they work, who exist within the nearly infinite amount of levels and see what tools Goku has at his disposal to escape. For the most part, we'll be using the Backrooms-wiki version and the Backrooms wiki versions of the Backrooms rather than the much more mysterious and smaller scale King Pixels versions. Yes, those are two separate canons of the Backrooms in those wikis that in themselves have their own separate canons and stories that don't perfectly align with each other. But due to the infinite nature of both, they can actually somewhat coexist, and that's what I'll be treating them with today. Still, I'm limiting it to mostly just these sources, so you don't have to listen to me talk about how there are dancing cartoon characters that exist there too if you want to treat everything as canon. Cringy YouTube content aside, where can we go first to best understand the Backrooms? If Goku is going to be trying to escape, getting a baseline of the Backrooms scale is really important. The post most people commonly associate with the beginning of the Backrooms is this text post with an image. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of the mono yellow, and the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum humbuzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell hurts you. This originally had no lore attached to it, but has become almost universally known as Level 0 in the Backrooms, a level that acts as a tutorial for the rest of the Backrooms for those who wish to explore it more. The original post actually tells us something really important about this lore, that it is at least 600 million square miles. At first, this might not seem too big until you realize that this distance is 1.3 times larger than the distance between the Sun and Jupiter. Not the size of them, but the distance between them, which is even more mind-bogglingly massive. Several other rooms, like Level 3, have been given a size similar to this, but these early levels are nothing in comparison to what the average Backrooms floor actually consists of. It is almost unanimously considered that these Backrooms floors are actually usually infinite in size, and are considered to be true infinite, at least three-dimensionally, as they literally do not have edges in any direction. These include infinite hotels, infinite cities, and infinite malls, each which are technically unbounded. It may be weird to think that individual buildings and cities can be infinite or universe-sized here, but there are floors in the Backrooms that are literally just infinite universes filled with sentient stars. However, there are major implications from spaces like the Blue Channel that imply Backrooms floors are actually four-dimensional space-time structures, as when viewing infinite rooms from the outside, they appear to behave like how four-dimensional structures would to a 3D being. In fact, even the base universe called the front rooms that we understand to be the real world is also called infinite in size. Generally, infinite-sized spaces are not that impressive in the cosmology of the Backrooms, as some floors like the World Factory are capable of molding and creating entirely new floors and universes like a basic assembly line. This infinity extends the number of separate floors in the Backrooms, as they are described to be a countless number of floors multiple times. Potentially, the spaces between these rooms is something known as the Void, which is a boundless realm that seems to contain no spatial borders whatsoever. It is generally considered in both of these canons, at least from what I've seen, is that once you're in the Backrooms, there is really no way out, which again is in opposition to King Pickle's interpretation, the main purpose of the wiki being documenting everything in the hopes of finding a way out. But those are normal human attempts. Does Goku have better tools for finding a way out? Let's get into it. In this scenario, Goku from Dragon Ball Super, one day while training, suddenly falls into level 0, and obviously doesn't want to stay where he is, so he begins exploring and trying to escape. Now again, if this was the video game interpretation of the rooms, Goku would easily find a way out, as even normal people have escaped from this path. The major difference being that Goku could explore faster, isn't at risk of being hurt from really any monster, it can brute force through any puzzle he can't solve. The real question is how he deals with the extended wiki canon version of the Backrooms. Overall, I see three ways Goku could potentially escape from the Backrooms, and I'll go over what is happening if he tries each of them. Number 1, destroying the floor he's on. Number 2, breaking the dimensional barrier between the rooms. And 3, teleporting out. Destroying the floor he's on is probably the worst option Goku can go for, but also the one he is actually least likely to do. Firstly, he should be able to destroy individual floors if he wanted to, as he's arguably been capable of outputting four-dimensional or low multiverse level power since at least Battle of Gods. However, if Goku did try these things, it would go really badly for him. Firstly, if the floor was destroyed, he'd probably just end up in the Void rather than back in the Dragon Ball universe, and most likely just be stuck in that boundless realm. Secondly, when floors are suddenly destroyed, it usually causes a drastic and awful chain reaction that causes floors from across the Backrooms to begin collapsing and falling apart, merging dimensions and making things generally worse for everybody. Essentially doing what Buhan did, but on an infinitely larger scale. If things get bad enough, Goku may even catch the attention of the beings known as the Pillars, who are the true primordial cosmic gods of the Backrooms universe, who are out-reversal and can just blink Goku out of existence if he annoyed them enough. But I don't think Goku would do this anyways, as he has no intention of destroying any universe, especially when there might be innocent people in it for all Goku knows. Number 2, breaking the dimensional barrier. By this, I mean doing what Gotenks and Super Buu did to get out of Time Chamber and what Gogeta and Broly accidentally did during their fight in Superhero. This I also honestly don't see working due to the fact that these abilities work in comparison to the Backrooms cosmology. When Gotenks and Super Buu broke out, they were going to a dimension that was directly connected to the Time Chamber, with Gogeta and Broly only accidentally breaking into a different realm that we honestly know nothing about. If Goku starts screaming and punching dimensional holes in the walls of the Backrooms, it's likely he's just going to lead him to another level of the Backrooms rather than the real world just off of pure statistics. This seems to be just how creating portals works, as beings like the Red Knight seem to be able to open dimensional portals, but only to other Backrooms levels rather than just sending humans back to their home. The final option I see Goku potentially having is teleportation, which definitely is his best option of getting out. The question becomes if Goku would be able to sense the key of the main universe to teleport back to. I find this unlikely, as Goku's capacity to sense energy between dimensions and also be able to teleport is pretty inconsistent. To teleport between dimensions separated by boundless amounts of space seems to be a bit out of what has been shown possible for Goku to do. But I can see an argument as how Goku being able to teleport out of Beerus' planet or collect Genki from the living world while in the other world may show that it's possible to patch dimensional barriers with Ki and Goku sensing. Overall, I think Goku can easily survive the Backrooms. His strength is unrivaled besides literally the highest gods in the verse, and he easily has survival skills to explore most of the floors without difficulty as long as he remains on guard. However, I'm not certain they could ever actually find a way out using his natural powers and abilities. That being said, if anyone is capable of finding a door that leads back to the main universe, it's definitely Goku. And that's pretty much it for this video. As always, make sure to like and subscribe to see more content like this in the future, and let me know how I was wrong in the comments down below. See So, as it's October and Halloween spooky season is almost upon us, this time of year I always go to one of my personal guilty pleasures here on YouTube, analog horror. For those who are not familiar, analog horror is a genre of online video that uses older styles of video making to tell some kind of horror story. It's been around for quite a while now, and even if you aren't familiar with analog horror overall, you've probably heard of at least one example of it. The Backrooms, Local 58, FNAF VHS, and even far older series like Marble Hornets and No Through Road might all fall into the umbrella of analog horror, and it's gotten so influential that it has directly influenced horror movies like Skinamarink. Now, this might just be my power scale or Dragon Ball fan brain rot, but one of the first things that come to mind when I see these series is something incredibly simple. What if Goku was in these worlds? Are the monsters and entities that exist in these horror series actually strong and threatening, or are they only scary because the people in the stories are powerless in comparison to them. Today, let's find out. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure to like, subscribe, and let's jump right in. Now, for this video specifically, I will just be covering the analog series that I am personally familiar with and also for the most part enjoy. If there was an analog horror or just internet horror series you thought I missed out on or would like me to give a power scale for in the future, just let me know in the comments down below. To begin, let's just do a basic warm-up for Goku with a collection of series I like to call what if analog horrors. Essentially, this takes a pre-existing series that isn't exactly horror and turns it into internet horror. Even Dragon Ball has its own version of this called The Others, but we'll be talking about that a little bit later down the line. Of these, I think the two most well known at this point are the Godzilla analog horror called Man in the Suit and the Batman analog horror called The Bat. While there are definitely versions of Batman and Godzilla who can actually beat Goku, unfortunately, to fit in the horror genre and give them a unique twist, neither of these versions are actually very strong. Firstly, the Man in the Suit isn't actually a real Godzilla, but a weird mutated version of the actor who played Godzilla, meaning instead of a city-sized monster, he's only slightly larger than a normal guy. Still, he has some pretty unique hacks abilities, as he seems to be constantly evolving and mutating, even being able to infect other people and turn them into their own tiny Godzilla franchise monsters. The Bat is more straightforward, essentially just being classic Batman if he was insane and terrorized Gotham City instead of actually helping it. It's implied he amps himself with a bunch of drugs to make himself stronger, but all he's really done is beat up and traumatize random criminals. Suffice to say, neither of these guys are very strong, and unfortunately, both of them would not even pose a threat to Goku from Chapter 1 of Dragon Ball, so let's just move on. Another subgenre of analog horror that doesn't do much better are the animatronic horror series, most of them which are inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's. You've got Harmony and Horror, The Walton Files, and FNAF VHS, just to name a few. Just like the previous set of analog horror series, there's not much these characters can really do to threaten any version of Goku. While being a large haunted animatronic suit allows you to be threatening to a normal person, again, Goku is just obviously so far beyond that doesn't really make a difference either way. The best you can argue for is that many of these series involve supernatural ghosts and spirits possessing these suits, but even then, through Ki, Goku can interact with spirits. So actually, it's very likely Goku would be able to put a lot of these spirits to rest, allowing them to be reborn again like he did for Kid Buu. In other words, Goku would fast track these horror stories to a happy ending. So is this whole video just going to be me saying Goku wins? No. For example, of a scenario that I think is essentially unwinnable for Goku, we can look to an analog horror series like the Tang-G virus. In this story, a parasite that evolves in a random water source in a small town essentially takes over people's bodies and eventually takes over the world by spreading infected water across the planet. And honestly, what is Goku supposed to do here? Well, I think Goku would be too powerful to be infected by the virus, as Saiyans are completely immune to a virus that can wipe out all of humanity. I don't think any amount of strength will allow him to eradicate or delete a virus out of other people's bodies. The best I can think of is that he could hypothetically sense the key of infected people and stop the virus before it spreads by blowing them all up, but that assumes he's able to figure out what's happening in time. Well, Goku doesn't necessarily lose in this scenario. I think it's almost impossible for him to win. And this really goes for any virus or infection-based analog horror. But is there any analog horror entity who can straight up give any version of Goku a challenge and a straight-up fight? Or are technical wins only possible for internet horror? Well, the group of series that I think has the best shot at doing so are cosmic horror series. As the name implies, this involves supernatural scenarios well beyond just the Earth and sometimes beyond our very understanding. The first series that comes to mind is the Mandela Catalog. In this series, the world is being invaded by beings known as alternates, which are warped and twisted replacements of real people whose main objective is to cause someone to delete themselves in real life. They seem to be controlled or led by an entity calling himself Gabriel, who seemingly replaced the biblical angel and literally stopped the events of the Bible from happening. This tells us that seemingly powerful non-human entities can also be given an alternate as long as they are intelligent. If that's true, then everyone might be screwed, because what if Goku got an alternate, essentially having Goku Black happen all over again? I mentioned before that this is essentially the plot of the Dragon Ball analog horror series known as The Others. I don't want to spoil it, but if you want to see how Goku does in a scenario like this, please make sure to check it out. Now, we get to three of my favorite analog horror series, all of which might arguably be some of the strongest, at least of the ones I know about: Local 58, Gemini Home Entertainment, and the Monument Mythos. Local 58 at first doesn't seem very powerful, mostly being made up of creepy, disconnected broadcasts imply that there are some monsters or aliens on the planet who have feats of smashing cars apart. Pretty neat, but again, they struggle against Chapter 1 Kid Goku. However, that can't be said for the main entity of the verse, which is literally the moon, which seemingly has turned into an evil entity capable of driving anyone who sees it insane. Based off the change compared to our moon, this unknown entity at the bare minimum is multi-continental in power, though it's likely just is the moon, so it's probably moon level. Goku likely isn't powerful enough to destroy this thing outright until around the 22nd Budokai, and while he could use the power pole to jump up to it and throw hands, looking at it would probably make him lose his mind as well. So if it's an early enough version of Goku, he does indeed lose in this scenario, but let's push things further. Next, we have Gemini Home Entertainment, which in a way is just Local 58 on an even larger scale. Once again, it involves an evil cosmic body slowly taking over the planet, but this time, instead of a moon, it's an entire planet known as the Iris. While its own size is unclear, what we do see is that it's able to drastically mutate and warp the geography of other planets, like Neptune. In fact, it seemed to turn Neptune into a death beam that shot light across the entire solar system in a couple seconds, arguably making it massively faster than light, given that it usually takes light 4 hours to reach Neptune from the sun. This is consistent with the fact that the Iris likely came from another solar system. Still, this means that Goku is up against a mutating planet-sized eye that can move at massively faster than light speeds. Unironically, Goku might be in trouble all the way through OG Dragon Ball, and the Iris would simply be too fast for him even if he could tag it with a Kamehameha. Their attack potency should also be pretty close, given that the hacks of the Iris can affect large planets. Still, I think by the time of the Saiyan Saga, Goku's attack potency and speed are high enough that one good Kamehameha could blow the Iris away. I bet you didn't think analog horror could be that strong, but wait, we still have one more series to talk about. The Monument Mythos. It is honestly a complete coincidence that my personal favorite analog horror series just so happens to be one of the most powerful ones I know. The Monument Mythos is full of a lot of satire, but genuinely does have some pretty scary moments, and also some of the craziest power scaling feats I've seen from a series that isn't a video game, a comic, or an anime. Now, summarizing the story would be impossible, but I genuinely recommend checking it out. There are numerous powerful entities within the Monument Mythos, like the D-Day Knight, the Last of Alcatraz, or the Air Force One Angel, who all have anywhere from multi-city block all the way to beyond planetary level implications. However, all of them are absolute fodder compared to the ultimate cosmic god of the verse, known as the Horned Serpent. Now, this entity essentially causes everything to happen in the story, and every other powerful character is usually just a tiny fraction of its power. I should note that the Horned Serpent is literally an alternate version of George Washington. I promise it makes sense when you watch the series, and I don't have time to get into it right now. Anyways, the first thing we see the Horned Serpent do is destroy the Earth when it's free. Its sheer size alone being ground dwarf level in power, making him already solo OG Dragon Ball just by existing, and probably giving Saiyan Saga Goku a hard time. However, this turns out to just be an avatar of the true serpent, as the creator of the series has told us that the serpent is actually a higher dimensional entity that we only perceive in the third dimension because that's all what humans can comprehend. We learned that another aspect of the Horned Serpent is a place called Wonderland, an internal infinite structure in which both time is irrelevant and doesn't exist. If that wasn't enough, after being reborn, the Horned Serpent caused something known as the Great Division, which created and affected multiple different universes. We were told that while not every world was affected by the division, many were. The Horned Serpent is also stronger than characters like Richard Nixon, who literally turned his entire universe into a fictional story. This makes the Horned Serpent a fourth or fifth dimensional being, capable of at least low multiversal power. This would make him strong enough to rival Goku as he is currently in Dragon Ball Super, as both of them are to some degree into that low multiversal tier. I'd argue that the Horned Serpent might actually win due to having way more hacks abilities and just through the fact that he's far more esoteric in nature and physiology compared to Goku, who's just a strong punch and kick guy. So can Goku survive analog horror? Almost. 99% of them lose to Saiyan Saga Goku or before. However, as we've seen, the Monument Mythos is absolutely no joke. I want to quickly thank all the creators who made these series. This video would not be possible without your hard work. I also want to thank my members who joined the channel for $2 and got to see this video early. Your support means so much, but that's gonna be all from me. See ya. Happy Halloween, everyone. As promised, in the spirit of the holiday this week, we will be putting Goku up against another kind of internet horror. Last week was analog horror, and this week we'll be discussing the genre that came before it and arguably created it, creepypastas. For those who don't know, creepypastas are generally associated with any form of horror story that found its origins on the internet. There is essentially no limit to what exists or what